So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this latest roundtable event. And today's roundtable is focused upon an issue I think all organisations face, all leaders face, and certainly people that are driving change and transformation face, is getting the right people in the right seats. So whether that is getting the right person into the project team at the right time, whether it's about getting the right leadership team in place within an organisation, or whether it's, by getting the right person in the sales team at the right time. It's just understanding the considerations and the impact, considerations that you need to understand to ensure that you do get the right person in the right place, but also understanding some of the challenges and issues and the impact of not is perhaps what we will talk about as we go along. So can you see that? Getting the right people in the right place, or in the right role, shall I say? Yeah, brilliant. So, why is this important? Well, I think it is very much the essence of great leadership is to, I suppose, do these three things really. Surround yourself with great people. Getting the right people in the right seats, and we'll maybe talk about what classifies as the right people, the right person, and what classifies as the right seat, and that sort of coming out of the traction for Gino Whitman's book around getting that EOS system within the business, and then thirdly, aligning the energies within the roles where we can deliver maximum impact. So, the first one, surround yourself with great people, is a quote from Good to Great by Jim Collins. Getting the right people in the right seats is from traction, and aligning the energies within the roles that they can deliver maximum impact is very much the focus, should I say, of the GC Index, which is what we want to talk about today as a tool that can help you to, one, surround yourself with great people, but two, get the right people in the right seats. So, how do we measure that impact, and how do we understand what an individual, or the impact that an individual can have within a specific role? And I suppose some of the key questions that we are faced when we are looking to bring people into a team, whether that's a project team or an operational team, bring people into an organisation, or ultimately, I suppose, select external support. We're asking these sort of questions. Can this person drive change? Typically, because whatever you're doing, there is typically a need to drive change. Can this deliver? This person really deliver what it is that they're being brought in to deliver? Can this person bring the team together? Can they help to deliver greater performance from the wider team? Can this person plan for success? Do they have that real understanding of what it's going to take to be successful within the role, but within the wider context of the team and the organisation? Can the person innovate? Do they have that ability to bring ideas? Do we need that within the person that you recruited? Sometimes, depending upon where you are in projects in particular, the last thing you want to do is bring someone in who's innovative if you're in that embedding stage, but we can talk about that in due course. And ultimately, can they drive improvement and look to bring that sort of improvement mindset across the business? And when we're looking at those sort of people decisions, we tend to look at a number of different aspects. One, we look at their expertise. Secondly, we look at their experience, and where they've worked in the past, what have they done in the past, etc., etc. And we might then start to look at some psychological tools that looking at the personality profiles, things like Myers-Briggs, etc. But one of the things that we don't often look at is this ability to make an impact, and this is where the GC Index is a tool that really focuses upon getting the people that are will have the most energy in a particular role, because they're naturally they will naturally move to the areas and working, and when they can work in a situation that allows them to make that maximum impact and deliver maximum energy, they can really thrive and succeed. And I think the key is to really start to look at all four elements, rather than just looking at experience, rather than just looking at a personality profile. Look at the four elements in a whole, and then you can, you're in a much better place to ensure that you've got the right person in the right seats moving forward. So let's look at the GC index in a little bit more detail. So it's basically a tool that it's 59 questions, I think, very quick, easy to answer questions. And off the back of those questions, you start to get scores in each of these 5 areas: game changer, strategist, implementer, polisher, and playmaker. But it's the way that those scores are allocated in those 5 areas that really start to identify where the individual's energies tend to be more focused. And it's a typical sort of quadrant. You're above the line, below the line, left to the line, right to the line. And we can go into a little bit more detail in due course if you're interested in exploring this a little bit further. But for today, I just want to start looking at what these 5 areas really actually mean. And I suppose it follows that typical sort of business process. As a business, you want to come up with some creative ideas, original ideas. You really then start to want to make sense of those ideas and understand whether or not what those ideas can do for your business or for your project. We then look to start to understand how to actually implement them and make them happen. And then once you've got them working in operational, then what can we do to really make them work as effectively as possible? What can we do to make them brilliant? And ultimately, how can we ensure that all that works together within an organization? Because whether you're working as an organization, as a division, as a team, the key is to have and going back to that real first element of surrounding yourself with great people. If you're a leader and you can surround yourself with great people, and you have each of these areas covered within your team, that can be very, very powerful. I use sporting analogies a lot, and the analogy I use on this one very much is, if you've got a football team and you've got a team of 11 defenders, you're probably not going to score that many. Equally, if you've got a team of 11 attackers, you're probably going to let a lot of goals in. So it's understanding that you've got people in the right place on the pitch to attack when you need to attack, to defend when you need to defend, and to control the game in the best possible way to meet the objectives that you're trying to do. And that's one I think GC Index can actually open up for you. So let's look at these 5 areas in a little bit more detail. So the game changer. These are the people that tend to be quite innovative, tend to come up with those original ideas. They're always looking for possibilities. That I use the term a lot around, so they're probably like a butterfly. They'll look at stuff and then they'll get really excited, and then they'll go and look at something else and get really excited because they're flicking. But they're constantly looking for those new ways, those transformations, rather than just incremental change. And they do see possibilities. Great people to have in a project early doors, when you're trying to understand the state of the possible. You're trying to set the agenda of what we're trying to do, what the transformation will look like, what options do we have. They're really good people to have in a team at that stage. They're less valid when you're in that sort of final stage of embedding, because they're constantly looking for new things to do. So if you're trying to embed something and you've got a game changer, and a lot of game changers, the likelihood is you probably struggle to really embed something because they're onto the next new shiny thing. So the strategist, the role of the strategist works very well with a game changer, because they tend to take those ideas and the innovations the game changer will come up with, but then start to make sense of them, and start to make sense of them from the context of, well, what does that mean for my business? What does that mean for my team? What does that mean for what we're trying to do within this project? It's they start to see those trends, those events, those data, and start to fit it together so that you can put together an implementation plan almost, and they're very much focused around translating those ideas into some practical plans, so that we can make sense of them. And at that stage, you can put budgets against them, you can put a business case against them, and really start to provide focus on what it is that we're going to achieve and ultimately deliver. So those strategist and game changer people within the team work very well together because they're typically above the line. They tend to be more innovative. They tend to be more ideas focused. They tend to be more forward thinking. As we go around that circle, then the next one is the implementer, and it's really it's a lot of people when we talk about implementers, it tends to be, you know, if I'm a project manager, if I'm a program manager, if I've worked in change and transformation, I'm bound to be a strong implementer, aren't I? And to be fair, when I was introduced to GC Index, having 25 years experience of delivering change and transformation, my initial thought was I should have a really high score in implementation, shouldn't I? Or in the implementer score. And in the event, it was like my second lowest score. And I'm much more of a strategist game changer. But it's not providing you with a mechanism to say whether you're good, bad, or indifferent at implementation. It's just saying, you know, where are your natural energies? And as an implementer, your natural energies will be to really get into the detail of building, very task focused, very much let's get things done. Let's really start to deliver to a good standard, but really be driven by the outcomes. And they tend to be reliable people. They tend to be that safe pair of hands, but very focused upon getting things done and making things happen. And again, it's important that you've got those people within the team because they're a natural balance to the game changers, and they work quite well with the strategist. The challenge is where the one's opposite. So if you've got a team made up of 50% implementers and 50% game changers, you know, the likelihood is they'll start to bounce off each other because part of the team will constantly come up with new ideas, and part of the team will be saying, just let's get something in place and let's get it embedded. So again, as you're building a team up, whether that's in a project team or an operational team, it's important to understand how these types of people work in tandem and support each other. The fourth area is a polisher, and the polisher's role tend to be very much focused upon making things better. They are the people that want to take something and make it as best that it can be. So they are the continual improvement type of people. They're constantly looking for ways to take what you do and simplify it, make it quicker, make the outcomes better. So really start to drive that sort of continual improvement. Very much high standard focus, and you know, their mindset is let's create that focus, that future that they can be proud of. Someone who's a very strong polisher can find it difficult to implement and consider the impact of stuff because they constantly want to continually improve. So sometimes, they get to a stage where they're looking for that final nth degree of improvement without really considering the cost that's having on the team or the organization. And that's again where the strategist will start to sort of maybe knock against them, because it's like, well, you've got it to where it needs to do. We do need to move on. We now need to start looking at different ways of working, etc., etc. The polisher and implementer, because they are bottom of the line, tend to be much more task-focused people. So as an implementer, you tend to be very much focused upon getting things done. And the polisher is very much focused on getting things done in the best possible way. So that's the difference in those areas. And the final one is Playmaker. And the Playmaker role tends to look at whether you are more people-focused or task-focused. It tends to look at how you will naturally start to orchestrate the future. So it's not saying that when I say people are task-focused, it's not saying that if you're task-focused, you'll do it without taking people with you. It's very much about saying, if you are very high on the people-focused side, you'll wait to get and you won't move forward until you get complete consensus. Yeah, if you are more geared towards the task, you will try to get consensus, but there will become a point where it's like, hey guys, the train's about to leave the station. We've got to get on this. And it's just differentiating that point. But as a strong playmaker, you will naturally look to manage conflict and to build cohesion rather than fragmentation. So you look to bring people together. You look to really start to get that belief within the team that as a whole we can start to achieve much more than you can as a set of individuals. And they do tend to bring people with them. They do tend to build that high level of trust, and they can be a real integral part of any team. I suppose ultimately what happens is that when you've done your 59 questions, you get a score in each one, and it tends to be looking at the two highest scores tend to be your preferred options, where you naturally get that energy, where you'll naturally feel more inclined to build impact. Why is this important from a project perspective? This next slide is the one that I suppose, from my perspective, when I first got introduced to this, really sort of opened my eyes to the scale of the potential. And it was this one, because this is a GC index slide. I probably would have done it slightly different if I was doing it. But if you look at the three rows there, individual projects, some of them are project related, some of them are operational, but compliance and risk under control, it typically will be project driven. And then the sort of new customer portal is a project as such. Where I would make some changes is not put it on quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. I'd probably put it in phases. So project phases, so startup phase, the initial build out phase, implementation, and then embedding. And if you just look at that sort of the first step, the first one, the cost reduction program, early doors within that sort of startup phase, when you're looking at cost reductions, you're looking for ideas to generate savings within an organization. So you need people that are looking at things in a completely different way. You need people to start to look at that blue sky thinking. How can we do things slightly different? So you want within that team some game changers. You want within that team some strategists that can really start to take those ideas and try to make sense. Are they just wacky ideas, or could you actually make them work within this organization? Yeah. Once you've got that list of projects, or that list of initiatives, and then you're going into the next phase, yeah, you still want those ideas people to really make sure that those ideas are being developed fully, and constantly looking for ways to drive even greater cost savings. But at the same time, you want you want that playmaker role to really step up, to start to get consensus within the organization, within the teams, or to drive the change of focus, to drive that change of mindset, and to really get people engaged in making sure that we are moving along the path that we need to move along to drive those changes in. When you get into the implementation of those new ideas, that really changing the organization to drive those cost savings out, you don't want lots of game changers in there. Then you want to move towards that implementation phase. You want to get those cost savings embedded, and that's where the implementer comes in, and where the playmaker is really key. Get things done, get it working, take people on the journey with you, yeah, and then make sure, as you go into that final phase, that embedding phase, that it really gets fully embedded. So that's where the polisher role starts to take much more of a lead, because they're constantly looking for driving further innovation and further improvements in what we're doing to really drive out the cost saving. The playmaker is a key role still, but it's the emphasis is in that sort of really making sure that the polisher role gets into the polisher role really steps up to get the maximum benefit from the cost saving program. And I think prior to looking at this in this way, I had a sense that, yeah, we want different people in different parts of the project, but all too often, when you go into a business, and I was in one a few years ago, which was very much a cost reduction program with a national infrastructure business, and we pulled the project team together, and we used some external consultants as well, one of the big four firms that came in to help. Did we ever do any analysis on where the key energies were and where the natural impacts? No, we didn't. Then we went out to look into the business to get subject matter experts who we needed to bring into the team to really help us to put in place some of the changes that they needed within the processes, within the operational activities. And we, as always, in many cases within projects, you end up getting people thrown at you. Sometimes they are not the right people, but it's just, that's where the management are prepared to release at the time. And again, what we found in the one with the national infrastructure is some of those people were completely the wrong people, and that you would get them and they would be with you all the way through, as opposed to saying, let's really understand the type of person we need at the first phase of the project, and they may be significantly different to the people that we need at the final phase of the project. But you tend to get subject matter experts staying with you all the way through. And what we've done in recent projects is using GC Index to really help within the organization to identify the best people to come into the projects at the right time, from a project management perspective and a subject matter expert perspective. And it's made it, and because we can demonstrate clearly that the individuals will be naturally much more inclined to operate in the most effective way in these areas. It's a really easy sell to the individuals to come on board within the project, because they naturally, a game changer will naturally want to work in an environment where they've got the opportunity to come up with new ideas. A polisher will naturally want to work in an environment where they've implemented something and it's about getting it fully embedded and getting the benefits. And when we've done that since in different cost reduction programs since we've utilized GC Index, the teamwork's been a lot better. The results have been a lot better. They've been achieved a lot quicker. And the overall program has progressed much more smoothly than in my experience, we've found previously. So if you want to know more about GC Index and what it means, and maybe even do one for yourself, so you've got a better understanding of where you're, how you position against those sort of 4 or 5 areas, use that link there. So it's the transformationleadersup.com/1-club-mastermind-test-drive. Book a meeting in the diary. I can talk you through a lot more about it, and also talk to you about how it could open up a new revenue stream for you as individuals as well, which is because the GC Index is a tool. Their approach is to work with partners, and those partners are big firms like PwC. You know, I do it through Gunnar Cook, but there's lots and lots of individuals out there that have become qualified to utilize the tool, and there's a revenue opportunity on the back of that as well. So with that, let me open it up for discussion. Let me stop sharing. Well, thank you very much for attending. If you do want to explore this a little bit further, touch base with me. Either drop something in the diary on that link that I shared earlier,